So I am preparing to go in with somebody that I just met last week to go in and speak with McCook Police Department about many of the crimes committed against me. I've been trying to show what's been going on, but without a steady address to receive mail at and assistance with all of the paperwork required. I've gotten absolutely nowhere. I have repeatedly been forced to go back to law enforcement that are aware that I'm trying to turn them in for the crimes that they've committed, and Nebraska State Patrol, the FBI, have repeatedly forced me to go back to Scott DeCoste, including forcing me to go to Scott DeCoste to turn in Scott DeCoste, as in the situation on December 20th of 2020, sorry, December 16th of 2020. Now, due to the sheer number of deaths involved, there is no wonder why law enforcement is well entrenched in trying to cover up their crimes. By calling upon my intelligence in court and outside of court, they have prevented me from getting the rights of a disabled person. I am at risk. There is supposed to be someone assigned to assist me with these things, and there hasn't been. With Penny Cooper, she is not interested in any of the crimes committed against me. It's the same thing everywhere. If you are homeless, their solution is for you to move on. Or you stay in the area and you jump through the hoops, as in the situation in Washington State, the situation in Nebraska, the situation in Colorado, where the law enforcement community is rapid firing this crap at me, and the so-called helpers that are supposed to be assisting me are outright ignoring the situation, looking the other way, and trying to convince me to move on. There's situations like the one in Cheyenne, Wyoming, where I was going to a mental health place there that was supposed to be provided, and I was going religiously. I didn't have the money just to drive from the Starbucks or from the Walmart to the building that I had my meetings in, and I was continually going to the meetings and continually being told I need to do this, I need to do that, you know, all these things that take time, and they're telling me these things take time. Well, the police are harassing me the whole time, trying to threaten and intimidate me the whole time. Eventually, the police are going to run me out, or they're going to arrest me on false charges or on homeless laws. Laws are made nationwide that make it illegal to be homeless. And even the parts that aren't illegal, police will intentionally go out of their way to try to threaten, harass, and intimidate you. Whether or not what you're doing is illegal or not doesn't make any difference to them. And of course, being forced to go to these law enforcement agencies by myself, and having other law enforcement committing crimes and utilizing the courts in order to do so. It's horrible. All they have to do is press false charges against me, and magically I can't turn them in. Now they keep changing the rules based on who it is. One of the situations in specific is with James Hammond. And give me a moment, I gotta go spit. Alright, the situation with James Hammond. Whenever I tried to turn in the Deuel County Sheriff's Department or any of the crimes against me, they would repeatedly manipulate mental health professionals and hospital personnel and have me shipped to other jurisdictions, claiming that I was attempting suicide. I wasn't. I was attempting to turn in very specific officers who had threatened, harassed, and intimidated me on multiple occasions. Now, one of those places that they had sent me was Scotts Bluff, where I was treated like an animal at the hospital. I was treated like an animal because those officers outright lied to the hospital personnel. These officers cannot diagnose me with jack shit. In specific, that would be Jared Hahn and Cody Selhorst, who I was attempting to turn in, and of course they got to be there to intimidate me while I spoke with Jen Beebe. They also outright lied to Jen Beebe, and Jen Beebe wants to play stupid. Now, because of the situation in Scotts Bluff, well, Jen Beebe was supposed, court-ordered, to assist me, and for 6 months she did absolutely nothing. I had no representation and no protection from law enforcement in Chapel, Nebraska. People say you need to move on. How many times do I have to move? That's literally what I have to do, is move to another location. As a homeless person, that is victimization by law enforcement every single time. Because you guys want to assume that all homeless people are druggies, all homeless people are child molesters, all homeless people are this, that, and the other, all homeless people are thieves. We're not. So James Hammond, after 6 months of having no assistance whatsoever from Jen Beebe or from Nicole Peralta, 6 months of them not calling me back, not following the court order, despite my best efforts and me not having a vehicle and not having a driver's license, not being able to go to any meetings, not being able to go fill out paperwork, not having any assistance with any of that, I did break some windows. And I shouldn't have had to. But if you look at the many situations with law enforcement where I called 911 and they didn't even make a report, but if someone else calls 911, then magically they can. I've got paperwork here that I've got to dig through so that I can actually show as much as I can without having to drag all of this there with me, because there is a lot of it. I'm going through that. I'm trying not to be overwhelmed. I have to plug in the printer so I can make copies of some of these things. The situation with me breaking the windows. I broke the windows so that other people would call 911. The reason for this is because after repeated attempts to get something done about Robert Warnick and God, what's that son of a bitch's name? Christopher Kurth, and law enforcement doing everything that they can to ignore the crimes against me, to blow me off and brush me off and pretend like they gave a shit. It came to a head because the threats, harassment, and assaults in Chapel, Nebraska were not ending, and I was repeatedly having to go back to the same officers who had taken part in threatening, harassing, and intimidating me. This is not okay. Like the fact that nearly every time that I had to deal with law enforcement, it was Jared Hahn. And now obviously there is a conflict of interest there, and with Jared Hahn and me trying to turn him in, obviously every single occasion after he did that in 2018, every single situation after that, it was inappropriate for them to send him. I'm going to pause for a second. Anyway, I broke the windows because of the threats, repeated threats by this point, by Christopher Kurth as well as Robert Warnick. Now, Nancy Bruins was there and present when I spoke to James Hammond. One of the other people who was present was a man named Richard Hawkins. Nancy and Richard that night took me to Nancy's farm outside of Chapel and allowed me to stay in a tent that was outside. Thank goodness for that. They were good to me. Now, the situation that happened that Richard and Nancy were there for is I was trying to explain to Mr. Hammond that these threats and harassment that I had been enduring and assaults were not being recognized, were not being investigated by the Deuel County Sheriff's Department, and Mr. Hammond was going out of his way to ignore the situation, to be very, not stern, but assholish towards me, talking down to me like I was a dog. This is not okay. He was telling me repeatedly that he couldn't do anything about that because that's not what he was there for, and things of that nature. Now let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to the situation with, obviously, Robert Warnick assaulting me. Now, when I tried to turn that into Sean Holloway, mind you, I've got at least 6 or 7 recordings with Sean Holloway where I am trying to turn in that situation. A situation that law enforcement in Chapel, Nebraska had repeatedly looked away from or threatened, harassed, and intimidated me for trying to turn it in. This man is a registered sex offender, okay? Now we can read his charges, but the point is that they wanted to change the rules yet again. On my paperwork with Robert Warnick intentionally misled the situation, and law enforcement assisted him in doing so, yet collected 0 evidence. The cameras that were at Pump and Pantry show that I was in Pump and Pantry already when he came in. That is not me stalking someone, that's me eating my fucking breakfast. When I tried to turn this into Sean Holloway for the who knows how manyth time, he went over to Robert Warnick's. Robert Warnick admitted to slapping the phone out of my hand. That is assault. Meanwhile, it is not against the law for me to walk down the street and record the situation. It is not against the law for me to hold my phone and show in Chapel, Nebraska how unsafe it is for me to walk down the street. Meanwhile, it is unsafe for me to walk down the street. If I go by somebody's house who doesn't like me, they call it in and say, oh, well, Sean was walking by my house. Oh, no, I'm sorry that I didn't have a vehicle. They also wanted to claim that because I had an axe, and yes, I do have an axe. I got that axe from Chris Stegeman. That axe was given to me so that I could do work at the Stegemans to knock down a whole bunch of stuff in their backyard that needed knocked down. A bunch of trees and overgrowth. I was using that axe for work. It is not illegal for me to own an axe, to possess an axe, or to travel with that axe to work. So, when Sean Holloway went over and spoke with Robert Warnick to do something, apparently do something about the assault by Robert Warnick, and despite the fact that it is on my paperwork that he did slap that phone out of my hand, I am disabled, that is a felony. They assisted him in getting away with it and assisted him in preventing evidence from coming forward by lying to a judge and preventing me from having access to this phone or getting this phone repaired by having me illegally incarcerated. Now, it also says in that paperwork that Sean Holloway had gone over there over a different situation. That situation that he had gone there for was the assault by Robert Warnick. He admitted in that paperwork that he had slapped the phone out of my hand. That is evidence of that crime. He admitted to that crime in that paperwork. And of course, did he say the same things that Hammond did? No, the rules were magically changed. Why? Because I was trying to turn in all of the deputies for Deuel County. All of them. All of them have taken part in protecting their boss from many of the crimes that he committed, helping to hide the crimes and ignore the crimes by Scott DeCoste and others in town. When I went to James Hammond, he came to talk to me about the broken glass up at Low Income, which would not have happened if Jen Beebe had been there to do her job, to help me to turn in the crimes against me. If she had actually been there instead of ignoring me for 6 months, I would not have had to break that glass. But I do admit to the things that I have done. I do not consider breaking the glass to be a crime, because my safety and the safety of my loved ones is the top priority. So Sean Holloway, instead of saying that he's not going to do anything about Robert Warnick pretending that I stalked him, I mean, this dude is obviously delusional and out of his fucking mind. He's also a registered sex offender. He's also got children at his house that he has access to, that he could sexually offend, again, his own children, and most of the time, yes, it is the father or the stepfather who is the offender. In 80% of child molestation and rape cases, it is one or the other parent or step-parent. So this is a national statistic that needs to be recognized. Now, for Robert Warnick, obviously Sean Holloway went out of his way to assist Robert Warnick in getting away with the crime of assaulting me. And of course, I don't even need the phone, because he wrote down in his paperwork that yes, he did slap the phone out of my hand. Sean Holloway wrote down that he was there for over a different crime. Obviously, that crime that Robert Warnick admitted to in that paperwork, in that statement where he's claiming that I stalked him, it is obvious that Sean Holloway went out of his way, above and beyond, in order to assist Robert Warnick in lying to have me incarcerated. Now, these guys have intentionally and repeatedly, over and over, gone out of their way to omit information, to omit the fact that I was trying to turn in Robert Warnick. Sean Holloway, obviously, because he works for the Deuel County Sheriff's Department, Scott DeCoste, for certain. Now, in specific, the 4 people that I was trying to turn in were Leslie Snell for attempting to give out my number, and Robert Warnick for repeated threats and assaults against my person, and a man by the name of William Barr, who went out of his way to outright lie and mislead the situation. And of course, Scott DeCoste, the sheriff. Now, if you look at my paperwork, who are the 4 people who pressed charges against me, outright lied, misled the situation? Those exact 4 people, and their names are all over my paperwork. Leslie Snell, in order to get a protection order, she had to admit whether or not she was involved with any other cases with me. Her name is stamped on all of my paperwork with those other 3 cases. Yes, she was involved. She was the 911 operator that I spoke with on multiple occasions about the abuse against me. And she did everything that she could, everything in her power, to mislead the situation, lie about the situation, change the subject, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now, because my paperwork shows that the Deuel County Sheriff and his deputies not only did not do their jobs, but they assisted criminals in getting away with the crimes committed against me. Yes, these men have committed felonies. Leslie Snell, in taking part in this, committed felonies. Robert Warnick committed felonies. Christopher Kurth committed felonies. Meanwhile, when I'm told that these things aren't illegal, well, that makes it okay for me to do them, doesn't it? And then if I do them, oh my God, magically they're illegal. James Hammond, not investigating the crimes that were committed against me by Chris Kurth and Cody Selhorst. Sorry, Chris Kurth and Robert Warnick. See, it wasn't just Sean Holloway. It wasn't just Scott DeCosta. I made multiple attempts to turn them in, and nothing happened, ultimately resulting in me having a mental breakdown and having to do desperate things like break windows, because obviously if I call 911, they're not going to do their job. They're not going to write a report. They're going to do everything in their power to ignore the situation. When I am alone, I am easy to victimize. That's why after breaking those windows, I went down to Main Street to find somebody who could bear witness when I spoke to whatever deputy that they had sent. He didn't want to investigate the crimes against me then. They have gone out of their way to intentionally misrepresent the situation, and obviously they were aware that I was trying to turn them in since 2018. The recordings show that. Now, obviously, the police are going to ignore the fact that I called them calmly and collectively, repeatedly, to turn it in, and they're going to go, oh, well, he screamed at us, he's a bad guy. He yelled at us, he's a bad guy. He cursed, he's a bad guy. No, people are fucking dead, alright? People are dead because these officers wanted to pull this bullshit. They're dead. D-E-A-D. They are dead. We can't bring them back. So why would law enforcement commit so many crimes? Because people are dead because they didn't do their jobs. With Sean Holloway, he did the opposite of what James Hammond did. James Hammond would not do anything about the situation with Robert Warnick, and wouldn't do anything about the situation with Chris Kurth, or any of the others who were threatening, harassing, and intimidating me in town. With Sean Holloway, when he goes to talk to Robert Warnick, finally, after years of threats and harassment by Robert, well, he can magically take a report from Robert Warnick. He can magically lie on paperwork to have me incarcerated for trying to turn in Robert Warnick. All of this because Nebraska State Patrol did not want to do a goddamn thing. They did not want to lift a fucking finger. They wanted to repeatedly force me to go back to the same law enforcement officers that I was trying to turn in, telling me that they didn't have any jurisdiction there. That is bullshit. They outright lied to me repeatedly. Now, in my paperwork, it also shows that. Like Polly Olson. Scott DeCosta references Polly Olson. Polly Olson, by her own admission, is friends with these officers, and that's why she wasn't going to do anything. By her own admission, she is friends with these officers. That makes it a conflict of interest. Meanwhile, she is a witness to many of these situations, including the fact that I was trying to get help. Now, they want to ship me to other jurisdictions, and then I can't turn in any of the crimes committed in those other jurisdictions, which include those officers shipping me out of jurisdiction. But meanwhile, these officers can use every jurisdiction around them. Scott DeCosta was able to utilize the Nebraska State Patrol. He was able to utilize the Cheyenne County Sheriff's Department, the Cheyenne Police Department, the Garden County Sheriff's Department, the Scottsbluff Police Department, the Scottsbluff Sheriff's Department. He was able to utilize all of these other departments in order to cover up his crimes, in order to have me threatened, harassed, intimidated repeatedly, and assaulted. Intentionally and knowingly and willingly. And then when I try to turn him in, I get told, well, we can't do anything, it's not our jurisdiction. Really? Because each of these other jurisdictions sure as hell got involved when Scott DeCoste asked them to. All I needed was a safe place to sit down and utilize the help that I had, which is a woman all the way in Lincoln, Nebraska, over the phone, in what spare time she could provide, because she is a volunteer. And what did they do? They outright lied on their paperwork in order to have me illegally and immorally incarcerated to cover up their crimes yet again. Deuel County Sheriff's Department did this on no less than 7 occasions. 7 separate occasions they did this. Repeatedly I went to them about the crimes committed against me. Repeatedly I wrote down what was going on. Repeatedly I made statements. Repeatedly. I did not always have the ability to photocopy those. However, when I had someone go in with me and was able to record those situations, and they were aware that they were being recorded, on those occasions they did allow me to make photocopies there at their office. Or rather, they made those photocopies for me. This includes attempting to get a protection order against Ted Bollinger. This is Natalie Bollinger's father, the one who raped her repeatedly, the one who had her selling drugs at 13 years of age in Boulder, Colorado, who was harassing me at my grandmother's funeral. Speaking out on Facebook and YouTube is not harassing someone. That is not threatening someone. That is speaking out, and it is my right under the First Amendment to do so. With the Bollingers and the stuff that they were doing, it is against the law. The things that they were doing in these Facebook groups, the things that they were having their friends do to me, and the things that the public were doing to me, these are all crimes that were committed against me because of slander. And the cops want to ignore the crimes against me and go, oh, well, we can't do anything about people's opinions. You can do something about the crimes committed against me over those opinions. You can do something about people like Robert Warnick assaulting me over those opinions and threatening my life over those opinions. Him threatening my life is a crime. Now, he has zero evidence of the crap that he is claiming, but they still use that to have me incarcerated. It is obvious, based on the evidence on this YouTube channel, that I was trying to turn in those 4 individuals in specific who worked together in order to prevent me from turning any of them in order to prevent me from even being allowed to go to court. And this includes outright lying to medical personnel, claiming that I was schizophrenic. Scott DeCoste had already planned on sending me to Lincoln. That's another county on the other end of the state, in order to prevent me from going to my court dates, in order to prevent me from being able to defend myself, and forcing me, if I want to do something against any of the crimes committed against me in Lincoln, I've got to go all the way to Lincoln to do that, because I don't have assistance with this electronic bullshit. And then they want to keep on saying it's not my fault. It's not my fault. No, it absolutely is their fault. People are scared shitless of the fucking cops, especially poor people, and especially the homeless. And then we've got people like Marcia Estrada and Penny Cooper and many others whose solution is for me to move on. They want to, oh, when are you just gonna... I don't get to let it go. People like Robert Warnick are everywhere. People like Christopher Kurth are everywhere. And law enforcement is evil to us everywhere. I have multiple recordings where I have police officers attempting to threaten, harass, and intimidate me when I'm not breaking the law. Threatening, harassing, and intimidating me to try to get me to go elsewhere, to move along, move along. I go to Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm trying to get help in Cheyenne, Wyoming, but I'm being harassed by police the whole time that I'm in Cheyenne, Wyoming. That's what's called having your number. When you're homeless, all cops have your number. As soon as you're on their radar, they make your life a living hell. Now, there's multiple situations that I was in when I was younger where law enforcement in Chapel, Nebraska had been assaulting homeless people. One of those situations is when I was in high school and I got into a fight with Zach Metcalf. There shouldn't have ever been a fight. It was horrible what Michael McBee did to Kimberly Jepson. And of course, with the recordings with Kim Jepson's mother, yeah, she verified that what Michael McBee did was what he did. He did pull Kim out of her vehicle by her hair. Yes, I am very protective of Kim Jepson. Not just Kim Jepson, but her entire family. Even Brandon Edward Jepson, the asswipe. Don't fuck with my loved ones. That's not a threat. That's me saying don't fuck with my loved ones. I will speak out. I will do what I can to protect my loved ones, even if they don't like it. Now, with law enforcement continually changing the rules and outright lying on my court paperwork, meanwhile preventing me from being allowed to show that evidence by having me incarcerated, cutting me off from the evidence, outright stealing the evidence, and obviously they didn't do their job. They did not send that evidence to North Platte. That's one of the reasons that I'm here. By law, Deuel County is not allowed to process any of this. They have to send it to North Platte. The fact that they did not send it to North Platte shows motive and intent. The fact that they did not send it to North Platte shows a breach of protocol. It shows that they made no attempt to do anything with any of the electronics that they had taken from me. They were able to get a warrant issued to steal my evidence by outright lying. And then they didn't do anything with the evidence. How screwed up is that? And in all of those situations, it says, number one, that they can't find the evidence. What did they do with it? Where's this magical evidence? Meanwhile, the county prosecutor, I had let the judge know that the county prosecutor was a conflict of interest. He is a witness in my situation and in my case. He is one of the people, one of the many people that I was told to go to and did go to about the situation with decoste. The county prosecutor's name is Richard Starkey, or no, his last name is Starkey. I can't remember if it's Richard or John. I do apologize for that, but it is on my paperwork. It's a very complicated and confusing situation with many conflicts of interest and many law enforcement agencies outright lying to me about what their job is, about what they're supposed to do. So they ignore the situation, they ignore the crimes being committed against me until I get overwhelmed and I have a mental breakdown. See, we're going to stop calling it a meltdown, because this is not a situation that is just for autistic people. Anyone can be threatened, harassed, intimidated, and assaulted and have their things taken away illegally to the point that they have a mental breakdown. Anyone. None of us are robots. All of us have emotions. Now, of course, we are expected to jump any time that a woman cries, or any time that a woman is angry about something. We are expected to jump to her rescue. When it happens to a man, well, it's entirely entirely the opposite. He must be a terrible monster for having an emotional reaction. Meanwhile, these women who are pissed off that I told the truth, and I'm pissed off that I'm being abused over lies. The way the law is written, it's just as illegal. It's illegal to do these things, whether it's to me or to a woman, whether it's a black woman or a white woman, or a black man or a white man, or a homeless man or a millionaire. But then we get to see that you aren't allowed to show evidence. You can't show evidence when you are incarcerated. There were people who attempted to assist me while I was incarcerated by sending me funds so that I could contact those that I needed to contact. And of course, law enforcement did not allow me those funds. According to Mandy Hughes, those funds were taken from her account, so that money did go somewhere. Where did it go? The fact that this is across multiple states and multiple jurisdictions, including North Platte, shows that, yes, what has gone on across multiple jurisdictions and multiple states, it does need to be shown in court. The things that happened here in North Platte do need to be shown in Deuel County Court. The things that happen in Lincoln do need to be shown in Deuel County Court. The things that happen in Scottsbluff do need to be shown in Deuel County Court. These are the resources that law enforcement in Deuel County utilized to prevent me from turning them in. It also needs to be shown what it is that Nebraska State Patrol did not do. They wanted to continually change the rules. Case in point, Polly Olson. In my paperwork, by Scott decoste's own admission, Nebraska State Patrol was investigating a video about Polly Olson. It wasn't about Polly Olson. Polly Olson and many others were mentioned in that video for a reason. A lot of people, they believe that what I should be doing, and obviously I have many recordings from people that they are threatening violence against others, or saying that they would get violent with others, or they would kill others, claiming, hey, you know what, Sean, you should have just shot him. Sean, you should go kill this person. You should go kill that person. You should just kill these people. That's what these people who are wanting to help me, this is some of their suggestions. And I speak out about those suggestions, about how wrong they are, about how I'm not willing to do those things. But then we've got people like Leslie Snell, by working together with my other predators to prevent me from even being allowed in court, much less show the evidence that I've been trying to show. Yeah, she gets to pretend that a video about how wrong it is, how horrible these people who want to help me's suggestions are. Leslie Snell wants to outright pretend that I'm threatening her life. No, she is playing victim because I tried to turn her in. That is obvious. The videos with her, multiple videos with her, show motive and intent. They show that she was aware of the situation. They show that she was aware that me trying to show these things to the public, she was aware of the things that I had to do. She was aware of the restricted calls and the harassment over and over on my old phone. When she tried to give out my new phone number, she did it the first time pretty fast and tried to talk those numbers over me while I'm explaining to her, hey, you can't do that. The second time that I called back, now this is over the situation with Robert Warnick. This is because he was continually stalking me after assaulting me. And Leslie Snell is going out of her way to give out intentionally my phone number. Yes, these people committed multiple felonies against me in order to make me a target. The slander by the Deuel County Sheriff's Department. The slander by Leslie Snell. The slander by Robert Warnick. and the evidence was never collected. Why is it the Deuel County Sheriff's Department never bothered to collect the evidence from Pump and Pantry? Why is it the Deuel County Sheriff's Department went out of their way not to investigate these crimes? Why is it the Deuel County Sheriff's Department did everything in their power to assist my predators in getting away with their crimes, including Joshua Rayborn, including Christopher Kurth, including Robert Warnick, including Sandy Fromm? Why is it that they did these things? And why is it that these things were all done not only before, but also after I attempted to turn these into Nebraska State Patrol? Why is it the Nebraska State Patrol can investigate a supposed crime against Polly Olson, but they can't investigate any of the crimes against me? Why is it that they keep on changing the rules depending on who it is? Why is it that by calling me mentally ill, it magically makes it okay for them not to commit a crime against me? Now, I have not been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but let's say, for example, that I was schizophrenic. Does that make it okay to commit these crimes against me? No, it makes it more against the law to commit these crimes against me. However, because of the term mentally ill and pretending that it's schizophrenia, basically they just pretend that everything that I say is an outright lie and refuse to look at evidence that is all over my Facebook and my YouTube channel. Now, are any of these web sleuth shows looking at any of that evidence? No, they are all going out of their way to look the other way. When I am calm and collective, you get to hear the conversations with all these people where they're continually redirecting and deferring the things that I'm saying, going out of their way to ignore the crimes and try to push things that don't work and have not worked, and I have recorded repeatedly that they do not work and have not worked, and yet I still have people trying to tell me to get a hold of the Nebraska Attorney General's office, as well as the disability rights place, and so on and so forth, despite literally hundreds of phone calls showing that these people are not going to do that. They're not going to do their jobs. And these places all tell me it's not their jobs, but then these law enforcement places keep telling me that it is their jobs. So nobody knows what anybody's fucking job is. It's just everybody's job to do absolutely nothing and send me to somebody else. This is stupid.